Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So today's topic might seem a bit off the cuff, but this Titan submersible situation is something the whole world is talking about, and honestly, reaction to it has been so mixed. It's very interesting to see, okay? This story has gripped millions across the world, and it's even led to a whole controversy involving dark humor because people are making jokes about this situation, including this post right here by the Vtuber Bao. This is probably the most representative one where people are outraged at this edgy joke. So yes, VTubers are now involved. It's in our jurisdiction, so we're going to talk about it. So to give you guys a background and the latest updates on this situation, we have to start here. So there is this company called OceanGate. They provide tours of the Titanic ruins out in the Atlantic Ocean. They have this submersible called Titan. This is a sub that has been missing for several days, and it has been the thing everyone has been talking about. So getting a seat on this vessel will cost you a cool $250,000 per seat with a total capacity for 5 people. So this tour normally lasts some time, but only an hour and 45 minutes into their latest voyage, contact with the sub was cut off. And then a few hours later, the Coast Guard was made aware of the situation, and immediately search parties were set in motion on Sunday. And here we are waiting for these people in this vessel to be found. Now, this is a situation that has raised a lot of concerns about the safety and integrity of this vessel, because there's been concerns over the course of time, not only concerns about former voyages conducted by this company where things were shaky at best, but the structural integrity of this submarine is questionable. It seems that its billionaire owner liked to cut corners. He wasn't a big proponent of safety, and this vessel was not certified, which doesn't mean that he is prevented from using it, but that just goes to show that safety wasn't the biggest priority. In fact, the cutting of corners led to purchasing over-the-shelf equipment like what you're seeing here. This vessel, this submarine, was ran by a video game controller that I believe you can buy on Amazon for $30. It's not even the most up-to-date version of this particular controller as well. But yes, just look around. This is the submarine. This is the submersible. 5 people in this cramped space. And for your knowledge, yes, there is a bathroom on there. But this is where you'll spend many hours deep in the ocean where the pressure would instantly kill you if you were not in this little tin can here. I have to say, this is a nightmare for me personally. I could not stay in this space. They couldn't pay me $250,000 to go on this trip. And honestly, the safety concern's pretty alarming, but there is nothing where I think safety is more important than a submersible like this. Anything goes wrong with this trip, everyone on board instantly killed. Or, in another case, slowly killed, which is one of the concerns here. But they were aware of these risks. Like I said, this owner cut a lot of corners, and a lot of people have been talking about the waiver that the passengers had to sign, which says this submersible, Titan, is an experimental submersible vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body, which could result in physical injury, emotional trauma, or death. They had to sign that before getting on. All the passengers. Kind of gives you an idea that there's a high risk here on this journey. And a lot of people pointed to this waiver as like, well, they deserve to die. I don't think that's quite warranted, but it's just important to point out this waiver. It's obviously a high-risk mission on a vessel made by someone who likes to cut corners. Do with that information as you will. But here's the thing. So Sunday, contact is lost. Now, there was an estimated amount of oxygen that would be available on board, and that created a window, a countdown to their likely deaths, okay? That countdown just ended a few hours ago. So the likelihood of any developments coming, whether they find the sub or not, they are likely dead at this point. That is the reality of the situation. So there was an immediate response, the Coast Guard going out there, many search parties, and they haven't found anything up until today, and we'll get into that update in a second. But basically, there's many different options of what happened to the submersible, okay? Number one, it became buoyant after it lost power and then floated to the surface. That would have been probably the most likely to save them because they'd be found on the surface a lot easier, but clearly that didn't happen. The other options is that the submersible got stuck in place, which, again, more likely to be found. Then the next option, which is the vessel just kept floating through the ocean endlessly, which means it expanded the area that it could have ended up, which means a lot less likely to be found. And even there was some updates the other day where some sonar equipment was picking up banging noises, like someone was banging on the submersible from the inside. That only limited the search area to a place the size of the state of Connecticut, as well as going down several miles below the surface. That's how hard it is to find this submersible, okay? And here's the other problem. If they found the submersible, that doesn't mean, oh, they're instantly saved. They are bolted in to that submersible. They cannot leave on their own. An outside party has to unbolt their exit. So even if they were found, they'd have to be taken out of the ocean and then had that exit opened up for them. They couldn't even leave. I mean, they wouldn't be able to swim long enough before drowning to get to the surface anyways, but they were quite literally trapped in there. Well, there was a final option for how their fate was to be sealed, and it looks like that has been confirmed literally as I'm recording this video. This is the latest update. There has been some debris found by the U.S. Coast Guard, and it includes a part of what is believed to be the Titan submersible. So this confirms for many the final option of what happened to them, and that is the fact that the second the submersible lost power, it likely imploded and instantaneously killed all of the passengers on board. That seems to be the situation, and honestly, that is the most merciful version of these events. At this point, they were likely dead no matter what. They would have ran out of oxygen. So those other options where the submersible was intact over the past couple of days, they would have had probably the most excruciating and scary death I would imagine. They would be stuck in a dark, powerless submersible the size of half a bedroom with 5 people likely sitting in piles of their own human excrement as they slowly ran out of air. That is a terrible way to go, and they couldn't even exit the submersible and drown if they wanted to choose that option because they were bolted in, like I said. So dying instantaneously the second it lost power on Sunday, the most merciful version of these events. But yes, there has been a lot of talk about this. The whole world seems to be gripped by this story, including those in the VTuber community. Now, this post by Bao is just the example I want to use for today. It's the biggest post and it's generated the most outrage. A lot of people have been posting memes and poking fun at this whole situation, including the whole fact that it was run by a controller. And you know what? When it comes to this post, it's edgy humor. Okay, that's the way I classify it. I defend edgy humor in 99% of cases on this channel. It's poking fun at human tragedy. It's nothing new. This happens every single day, and I don't think there's anything particularly unique about this situation that makes this post horrible. But also, as an edgy joke, it's okay for people to be offended by it. You have the right to be offended by it, just like she has the right to make this edgy joke. But the reason I bring this up is the amount of hypocrisy I've seen surrounding these types of posts is really interesting to me. So a lot of VTubers who normally consider themselves safe spaces and they normally go out and cancel other VTubers over edgy jokes are posting memes like this that are poking fun at the deaths and the suffering of these passengers of this submersible. Now, Bao is not one of those people, just to clarify, but these other people that we normally cover on this channel, these antis, they are having a field day with this. Not only are they posting these memes that normally they would cancel other people for under different circumstances, they're like actively celebrating this situation. And that's what I find to be odd, okay? Maybe this makes sense to you, maybe it doesn't, but I think in a situation like this, the line for me personally, this is all subjective. It's fine to poke fun and post memes and all that stuff, it's just edgy humor, but the second you're like so invested in the suffering of other people that you're actually happy in celebrating their deaths, that's when I'm starting to think you might be a little bit of an asshole, right? I'm seeing VTubers who are posting countdowns of the oxygen left, like 2 more hours with little celebration emotes. Like, dude, you're weird. That's weird. And like gleefully cheering on updates that might have confirmed that they were dead, or explanations of how much they're currently suffering and things like that. That's weird to me. That's a lot different than posting memes poking fun at the situation. I think there is a difference there. If you can understand that, great. If not, I guess we agree to disagree on that. But one of the continuing justifications for celebrating these passengers' deaths is that they're billionaires, so it doesn't matter if they suffered or died. Which, not to be a stickler for details, there was only one billionaire, and that was the owner of the submersible who was also on board. Honestly, if you want to blame him because he was cutting corners and safety wasn't his big priority, fine. But the other people were not billionaires, and one of the passengers was a 19-year-old son. And I don't really understand like what that 19-year-old son did for a random person on the other side of the world to be so gleefully happy that they might have suffered and or died. It's all very strange to me. And again, these are the types of people who normally are hypersensitive to these sorts of edgy type jokes and issues, and yet they feel so justified in celebrating these deaths as if it's really any different than the edgy jokes they normally get upset about. I don't really think the waiver is a justification. They're not, they didn't deserve to die because they signed a sketchy waiver. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting soft, guys. That's just me, but that's my personal opinion on all of this stuff. I think the reaction from VTubers has been very hypocritical and all over the place, and how they treat this situation versus other situations is, well, interesting but not surprising. But this whole Titan submersible situation has been quite crazy. It's another one of those world events where millions all around the world are locked in, and it looks like we have reached the end, and yeah, there's really nothing else to say. You know, it's a crazy situation when I'm covering something like this on the channel, but here we are. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please share all of your thoughts about the various topics we talked about today in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time.